the Eagles they sort of hoodwink a little bit in that, like, whenever they're on prime time, you'll see their record over the last 20-25 years, and they're up there with all the best, right? Some of that is heavily weighted by the Andy Reid era, but they are a peaks and valleys team. And if you really go back to 2010 and 11 and 12, the last 2 years of Andy, right, till this year, they had the Super Bowl season which was great, and then 2018 they won a playoff game, but I don't think they've won a playoff game in any of those other 8 seasons in the last 10 years. So I'm not saying they're bad, and I'm not saying that they don't have a good identity. I mean, they're great as far as bolstering the trenches, but to me, they've always struggled with who they are as a franchise, as an organization, what their objective is, what their identity is, compared to, say, like a Steelers or Ravens who just know what they are year in and year out, and they can replace parts, right?
Great. All right, let's lift our spirits. Let's go to our guy. We haven't had a chance to have him on the show yet.
What's up?
And I'm looking forward to talking to him. That's our guy, Geoff Mosher. We had his co-host Adam Kaplan on. They do an awesome job with their podcast, Inside the Birds. I love you. See, look at the handsome renderings behind Geoff that he has for his background. I think you got
better
the better
than the real thing.
Well, you got the better end of the stick than Kaplan did, I think, on those renderings. I think. I'm just
I might have had some influence in that.
Yes, I hear you. First off, Geoff, good to hang with you, man. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I'm playing golf the other day. We're playing in Live Casino's golf event, and I'm chilling with Mosher. And all of a sudden, we walk by Dr. J. He looks at Dr. J like, that's Dr. J. I look up, yo, that's Dr. J. I'm like, yo, I'm going crazy. Yeah, I've seen him a lot, man. I'm around a lot. Like, yo.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, that's cool, So we go take a picture, and all of a sudden he said, where the big offensive lineman at? This is Dr. J. Where the big offensive lineman at? So here I am right here. He said, because you get in the front, big guys in the front. And, he said, oh, no, he can't get on the knee. So I got down on the knee. All of a sudden, 2 seconds later, guess who gets down on the knee next to me?
Geoff Mosher.
Dr. J.
Oh, the doctor.
So I took a picture on the knee with Dr. J. That's what I'm talking about. We both in the front.
He's a guy I would geek out about. Like, I've interviewed him before, and I'm kind of like, I guess, Jeff's reaction. I'm usually just like, whatever. Like, we've been here, done that. But that's one, like, Doc would be kind of like, that's royalty, man.
Right.
Well, the reaction that you would have had to Doc was actually the reaction that I had to if you remember, Saturday, it was like 98 degrees.
Right.
And we get there at like 11 o'clock, and people just start pouring off that shuttle from Live. And then dudes I'd never seen in my life, just who were in the tour, just go straight to the booze tent and start doing shots, like multiple shots. And I was like, these guys aren't going to make it to the third hole.
And that's exactly what happened too. That's exactly.
That is true. Somebody had to cut out pretty early that day.
Yeah,
I would say just about 50% of the golfers tapped out. Man, couldn't finish the 18 hole. Man,
no kidding.
That was rough.
Yeah,
okay.
It was so hot that they started off drinking. So I go over, sit in the corner with Motion. Here we are talking about antacids and how we have to take antacids for GERD, and how we're just drinking water because we don't want it in Gatorade.
Bunch of old fogies.
Yeah, what two party guys right there, man.
Gun, you're not lying. It really got into the point where we were talking about colonoscopies.
Oh, jeez. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Oh, Barrett lives right near my colonoscopy.
And by the way, speaking of colonoscopies, I've never had used that segue before, but speaking of them, the easiest part is actually the colonoscopy. The worst part is the night before.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
The procedure's nothing. But the night before, when you are living on
drinking that mess,
is the worst. It's the worst.
I got one in July, man. I got one my 50th. I usually get it on my 50th anniversary.
Same here.
My 50th birthday. But, long story long, it was just a bad time. So I said, all right, I'm going to go ahead and I scheduled it and I have it in July.
Yeah, I did in August.
Not looking forward to it.
Not,
hey,
look, you got to do it, but.
Yeah. Can you imagine the volume of liquid Barrett's going to have to drink to flush out?
What are we talking about?
Oh, my God. Jeff, aren't you glad you came on? That's all the time we have for Jeff.
He's going to have to sprinkle the powder in the bathtub. Just jump into the tub with the straw.
Stay out of the pool, Barrett. Okay, stay out of the pool, my man.
Oh, Rob, if ever a time for your let's get it back to the Eagles.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my God. All right, Geoff. Without further ado, let's get it back to the Eagles. All right.
Man.
I want to hit you with this one first. And tell me if I'm missing somebody, because I count 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 6, including Andy Waddle, which is clearly the headliner. But there's a lot of big names here that have left the front office in the last 4 or 5 months, whatever it's been.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ironic, I guess, to an extent. We're coming off the heels of what was a really good draft last year and what appears to be a good draft this year, and now you have this kind of turnover. I guess my question is, Geoff, I know some of this is, hey, it happens all the time. If you're doing a good job, people are going to pluck your people, whatever. But this seems like an inordinate amount of folks moving.
You think? Yeah. No, it's quite. Guys, what happened to the Phillies last night? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. I'd rather get a colonoscopy, Geoff, than go through that again. Okay.
I have an expression that I like to use on Inside the Birds with Adam and it's very true. Over the last 5, 6, 7 years, it could go back longer, that no team hires and fires coaches, position coaches especially, more coming off a playoff year than the Philadelphia Eagles, which is true. If you go back and look, every time they make the playoffs, it's amazing how much coaching staff turnover they have, and not because somebody left for a better job.
Right.
And this year, it extends that to front office. It's just amazing how different the Eagles front office is about to become and is becoming because of this rash of departures. Some of them, as you just mentioned, Rob, you leave for a better job. Some of them are firing. Some of them, like Tom Donahoe, I'm leaving. I might retire. I might not. I might resurface somewhere else. And there's a purpose and an intentionalness to this. I still have more homework to do. Adam has more homework to do. But, clearly Howie Roseman had a different vision going forward for the front office. Younger, more diverse. When I speak to people, I get the term, and this is where I have more homework to do, kind of more forward thinking in how they go about their operations. What that entails, we have to see. We always know that they are big on analytics, so we'll have to see what that means.
Is that it right there?
Well, I don't know if that's just it alone, Barrett. I think that there's clearly a different process that they're eyeing going forward. But the question you would have to ask that is, why right now? I mean, obviously you had to replace some of the losses anyway, from guys who got better jobs. But why right now do you change everything when the public and the media and just in general, even people who work there, generally see the last 2 off seasons as a positive trend as opposed to the 2 off seasons before that?
Geoff, let me ask you this then.
Mm-hmm.
The mass exodus, is it based solely, in your opinion? I don't know. In your opinion,
Mm-hmm.
is it based solely on people getting opportunities, or do people want to leave the organization for whatever the case may be? And I'm not saying there's any in-house frictions, but do you think people are trying to get out of there for whatever the reason may be?
Yeah, I mean, I think I hate to be vague about it, but it's definitely case by case, Gunnar.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly
Yeah.
Ian Cunningham and Brandon Brown are both leaving, and Catherine Rich are leaving for better jobs. The 2 of them are becoming assistant GMs, and I think actually Catherine Rich is as well in Cleveland. So those are really good jobs. Andy Weidl is about to become the AGM of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's an incredible job.
Huge.
Yep,
Huge
absolutely.
job. He's from Pittsburgh.
He's going to retire from there, bro.
Right. Plus, he's really going to have more power than even AGM might suggest, because the GM, Omar Khan, is not necessarily as much of I hate to use the term football guy, but he really comes through the salary cap management sector. He knows his football, but
great dude.
Obviously, too. Andy, he needs Andy, right, to really give him maybe probably set the board, really. So all those are better jobs, but you could also say, well, wait a minute. Why wouldn't you promote any of them to the Eagles don't have an assistant general manager. So wouldn't you want to keep some of these really talented people if you could keep them? And then there's a guy like Tom Donahoe. His contract is up and he says, I'm out. So if he's retiring, fine, he's retiring. He's in his 70s, I think. If he surfaces with another team, then you'd say, well, wait a minute. Why did you were out, but now you're coming back in. There are guys that Howie Roseman fired or just did not retain, which is a firing because the contract is up. Casey Weidel is an example of that. Sean Heinlein, an area scout, is an example of that. So it really is different reasons. And the big picture of that to me, Derek, is that this team is intentionally using and I don't know if they're using it, but coinciding with the fact that they're losing some good people, they're completely restructuring what they do in the front office.
Yeah, and I guess, Jeff, the sheer volume of it is what's, I guess, troubling, maybe a little strong. But if it's one or two, you kind of, okay, whatever, you can figure it out. Promote from within, there's reports that John Ferrari might get elevated, whatever. And I know these aren't all common names to people. I get it. But, you would think, okay, I understand that. But that's the ironic part too, Jeff, is, and we don't know about this. It's on paper this year, but it appears like there's been a pretty good plan the last couple of years. And they've had real good draft nights, it seems like, including the A.J. Brown trade. It just seems the timing of it is straight. Like if you had followed up what was an awful 2020 with a bad 21, you'd say, I get it. Like they should be cleaning house here. I don't know, man. It's weird.
I think that it's for most fans, right? They don't know a lot of these names. They're not people who are in the public. They know Andy Weidel, but the Catherine Raches, the Ian Cunninghams, whoever, the Alan Wolking, who will probably get a promotion with the Eagles, right? They don't know. So it doesn't really hit them. But when you ask yourself, why do certain teams like the Steelers and say the Ravens, I think Green Bay Packers are really good at this. They have a great continuity in their front offices. It doesn't mean they never lose somebody or never hire from the outside, but they tend to promote from within. They tend to build a lineage where you move up, just like Joe Douglas and Andy Weidel did in Baltimore before coming on here. And that was starting to be the case here because Joe brought in Andy, brought in Ian Cunningham. He brought a lot of those Baltimore guys in, and they were starting to develop that continuity. The Steelers are good at that. The Ravens are good at that. The Packers are good at that. The Chiefs are good at that. And there are some other teams as well that are known for that. And you see that they're not, those teams I mentioned, they're not necessarily peaks and valleys type team. When's the last time the Steelers were awful? I mean, they had Duck Hodges starting quarterback for them a few years ago, and that was like their rock bottom season, and they finished 8-8. Okay. The Eagles they sort of hoodwink a little bit in that, like, whenever they're on prime time, you'll see their record over the last 20-25 years, and they're up there with all the best, right? Some of that is heavily weighted by the Andy Reid era, but they are a peaks and valleys team. And if you really go back to 2010 and 11 and 12, the last 2 years of Andy, right, till this year, they had the Super Bowl season which was great, and then 2018 they won a playoff game. But I don't think they've won a playoff game in any of those other 8 seasons in the last 10 years. So I'm not saying they're bad, and I'm not saying that they don't have a good identity. I mean, they're great as far as bolstering the trenches, but to me, they've always struggled with who they are as a franchise, as an organization, what their objective is, what their identity is, compared to, say, like a Steelers or Ravens who just know what they are year in and year out, and they can replace parts, right? And that's why I think the Eagles are more peaks and valleys. Win the Super Bowl, go back to the playoffs, then you start that decline, and then you bottom out 4 wins, and now you're on the build-up. And I would say you're probably not going to see the impact of what's going on right now maybe for another 2 or 3 years. And I'm not definitely saying they're going to be bad. I'm just saying the history has shown you recently that they're up and then down and up and down, and they're constantly kind of rearranging the furniture here and trying to do different things. And that's, to me, that's not the recipe for that long-term sustained success, to the point where when you have a bad year, people are shocked by it.
I will tell you, having covered the Pittsburgh Steelers for 10 years, they're one of the few franchises, when they say this is a family organization, they mean it. Okay. You look, like you just alluded to, Jeff, they've only had 3 coaches in the last, 40 years?
Yeah,
69.
40 years.
69.
Okay.
Yep.
You look at the front office, they have very little front office turnover. They make you feel welcome, that they want you to stay. In most cases, they do whatever it takes to get you to stay, whether it's money, whether it's position. That's why they have been so consistent. Now, they may not have been the Super Bowl entity that they were in the 70s, but you look at Mike Tomlin. Tomlin's been there 15 seasons. Okay. How many coaches last 15 years in one place? Mike Tomlin, of course, had to prove his worth. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season in 15 years. I mean, that's incredible in itself. Even when he had the quarterback issues, he still finds a way to go 8-8. You know, they make it. People want to go to Pittsburgh. You can't say that about every organization in the NFL. When you get an opportunity to work for the Pittsburgh Steelers, that is a highlight on your resume, whatever the capacity is, because they're not going to force you out. If anything, it's like the mafia. They want to keep you in. Once you're in, you're in for life. You know,
right?
You can't say
I wouldn't.
you can't
I
say
don't
that.
know anything about that, Gunner. No, just,
Yeah, you do. Jeff,
But you know
don't
what?
make me tell your business on camera. Whatever.
Well, you know,
No,
what?
you're right.
Just like,
You're absolutely
just like me playing with the Steelers. I'm close with Omar Khan, you know, because that's who I used to talk to negotiate my contracts with. My last 4 seasons was I was getting slotted the veteran minimum, so I didn't have to really negotiate a contract. But I would call him and I would like, hey, Omar, you guys signing me back. He said, yeah, we're gonna sign you back, but give us till this date, because we have to clear some other stuff up first. But yeah, you're our guy. And once he gave me that assurance, I'd wait 3 or 4 months and would not worry about me being a Pittsburgh Steeler, because that's the way that organization is run. Yes. A handshake means more to them than actually ink on a contract. Mm-hmm. So, that's one of the values that whole organization, what they breed, man, because it's hard to become a Pittsburgh if you're not a Pittsburgh Steeler. It just so happened that, in my travels, I was with, the last GM when I was in Detroit. He left Detroit and went to the Steelers, and he took me along with him later on when I got there. But, I think when I was there, during the whole inception of this Pittsburgh Steelers, I was like, there were only like 687 Pittsburgh Steelers that were in the organization. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about, 15 years ago. It was only 600 or something. They have a turnaround like 5 years of other teams, but they just don't let guys. If they draft you there, you're gonna be there. They make sure that they cultivate you and make you a player, and that's what this organization is all about. Yep. And I see the Eagles as an organization that they're trying to get into that type of genre, but they got a little work to do. But I mean, man, the way they're sending out these executives, man, I'm kind of curious, what they're gonna do going forward.
I think we all are. I mean, there are certainly some names that we've, talked about on Inside the Birds of some hirings that they've already made. They just haven't announced. So they have brought in some people from the outside. They're going to promote some people on the inside. But I think the general point is, when you lose that many people and you're changing, coming off what's seen as 2 pretty good off seasons, it makes you wonder, like, they're trending up right now. I don't think anybody would say opposite. But what happens after this year? I mean, are they going to start going back down? Like, what is their identity? Who's in charge? Who calls the shots? They have a lot of different titles. Titles don't always say what you do. It's more about what you're making. So there's a lot that we have to figure out once they finally announce their front office, and then a lot that this team will have to do, because you don't just snap your fingers when you have so many new people and you're all aligned, right? It's going to take some time for everybody to get used to each other and what it's like working with new personnel.
Well, Jeff, for the here and now, as you know, and I hear you with this is certainly good. There's a ripple effect, but for right now in 2022, as we go into this season, there's high expectations, for a team that won 9 games last year. They did get in the playoffs, but let's face it, a lot of this was against teams that were of lesser caliber, to be kind, and quarterbacks that, by the way. Right. Are you one who is in the projection of the 10-11, possibly having surpassed the Cowboys on paper? How do you view this upcoming season?
Yeah, I know. I do think that they look like, to me, I think what I've said is I feel like from an expectation standpoint now that the floor should be 10. I think the ceiling is 12, which is pretty tight there. I don't see them being more than a 12-win team unless everything goes right and you get a lot more out of the trio of Jalen Hurts, Jonathan Gannon, and Nick Sirianni than expect. It really sort of annoys me when I hear people say this team is now ready to go as far as Jalen Hurts takes it. It's all on Jalen Hurts. And I don't think that's fair, because not that it's not, but there's no person in that organization who received more help and support in the form of personnel and talent around him than Jonathan Gannon. Jalen Hurts got A.J. Brown. Okay, that's great. It should be very good for him, and we'll see what happens with Cam Jurgens if he has to play. But Jonathan Gannon got new linemen. He got new linebackers. He got new corners, right? And although he didn't get any new safeties, they are higher on Marcus Epps than maybe most are. So it's his job now to go put out a defense that should be way less predictable than last year's defense. And so I think there's just as much of a onus on him to take that next step up in his second year as a play caller as it is Jalen Hurts in his second year as a full-time starter. So I think that if those guys really are, if they do take a big step up, then maybe you're looking at something special. But I think 10 to 12 is pretty fair. I don't know that here's the thing about comparing rosters, right? Like maybe the Eagles from 1 to 53, if you did 1, 2, 3, right, you would say they've got better players overall than the Cowboys. But I think as we sit here right now, it's fair to say the Cowboys still have the better quarterback.
Yep.
They still have the better pass rusher in Micah Parsons. And those are two of the most important positions on the field. Darius Slay's great, but Trayvon Diggs had a whole lot of interceptions last year. So maybe it's a wash. I don't know. But so maybe the top 10 of Dallas to me might be a little bit better than the top 10, or how you weight certain positions might be. But I certainly think the Eagles have no excuse now to go and get their rear ends kicked in by Dallas 2 times like they did. It should be a competitive game that's down to the wire.
Hey, Geoff, what do you make of the Eagles tight end situation beyond Dallas Goedert right now?
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of what it used to be when they had Brent and then they drafted Zach Ertz to be young and upcoming guy. And then they had a versatile Swiss Army knife and Trey Burton. They have Dallas Goedert. That's your guy. And he has the potential to be a Pro Bowl tight end, like a really good tight end. But it's sort of anyone's guess on how number 2 is going to go. Grant Calcaterra, maybe he winds up being better than expected because really the concussions issue probably knocked him down, and then going from Oklahoma to SMU. But he's clearly a talented guy, just hasn't done a lot of blocking in college. The kid they had last year, Jack Stoll, is a pretty good athlete. He can catch a ball, he can block, he's like an H-back. So you kind of need that out of your number 2 if you get it. Unfortunately, the injury to the kid last year, the 6'7" kid, Tyree
Jackson, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be detrimental because when you're out, he needed OTAs, right? He was still a project. He really needed as much coaching and development, and he's not going to get it not being there at OTAs. So he's kind of out of the picture for now, and we'll see what happens next year. But Richard Rodgers is, of course, there to be a veteran. So they have this mix of kind of, you got the veteran guy, you got the consistent, stable, emerging guy in Dallas, and then you've got the young guys there in Stoll and Calcaterra. But someone's got to step up and be a number 2, because if Goddard gets hurt, then you would really wonder about the effect that they have at that position.
Yeah.
Barrett, you're muted, bud. Go ahead.
He sounds better that way.
You're still muted.
Yeah, you do.
So you got J-Jaw there. What are you talking about, man?
I neglected to mention J-Jaw.
How dare you, Jeff?
My bad.
Come on, man. No, but it's I think that's kind of the fun thing too. There's certain things that aren't quite locked down, and we just don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I want to last one for you, Jeff. Cam Jurgens, you mentioned. We debate this all the time. Is he just the backup this year to Kelsey, or has he got to maybe compete for a guard spot? What do you think?
I think it's a real uphill climb for him to compete for the guard spot, because the guard spot, assuming right guard we're talking about, is already a competition between some pretty good candidates there, and that's Isaac Seumalo, and we'll see what happens when Jack Driscoll comes back, and some of the guys they had last year, even Jack Anderson, who played in the season finale, played pretty well until he got hurt. So
Coyote Awoska.
Thank you.
Name team, that one.
Right. I would, if I'm the Eagles, what I'm worried about most is what happens if Jason Kelsey gets hurt this year, and I don't want to have to change my whole offensive line configuration to accommodate that. I want to be able to slide Cam Jurgens right in there and hope that he's up to speed as my second-round pick. So I'm going to give him almost every single rep I can, second team, third team center, to get him ready, and probably even give Jason, is going to get like 3 million maintenance days like they do in training camp now, and you'll probably see Jurgens get a lot of first team reps to get him ready for that position. If need be for right guard, maybe they throw him in there, but I think they just have good candidates right now for right. In fact, they're probably likely to make trade, in my opinion, going into the season once they settle out who's going to be the starting right guard and who's not.
Jeff, we appreciate it, man. And again, I tell Everybody check out. It's phenomenal podcast. Inside the Birds
Thank you.
with Geoff, along with Adam Kaplan. You get all kinds of great tidbits, information, real legit reporting that goes on there.
You heard what he said. Researching. He researches stuff. They're researching.
See that? He's
I
doing
just saw
so
it
right
against the
now as
wall.
we speak. He's multitasking right now.
I'm preparing to lobby to get inside the Eagles front office. So I'm working on my numbers, my analytics, my research and development.
I heard there's some openings, so you might be able to pull it off. Geoff, we appreciate it, man. Thanks. We'll talk to you
You
soon.
got it, guys. Have a good
Thanks,
one.
man.
All right.
Yep.
You got it. That is Geoff Mosher. All right, let's get a timeout, guys. Let's come back. Let's kind of react. When we come back, I want to stay on this theme for a minute, but I also want to play a cut from Howie Roseman when we get back, who joined us a couple weeks ago regarding this. This is before there was even more fallout from the Eagles front office. We'll do that when we get back. Also, coming up in the 1 o'clock hour, we're going to replay for you some of the Andy Reid stuff from yesterday and just kind of get everybody's reaction to that as well. Still more on the Phillies in store. We're not going anywhere. We got a lot more to do. He's Derek Gunn. He is Barrett Brooks. I am Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I want to tell you about my friends at Station Tap Catering in Drexel Hill. Station Tap Catering in Drexel Hill can handle your business function with ease while you focus on securing a new opportunity for your company. They got 50 years of experience in food preparation. Station Tap Catering will impress your guests, and your guests will be impressed. Let me tell you, Station Tap Catering provides delicious food for private events, corporate functions, individual packaged meals, perhaps for the next tailgate, Phillies games, Phillies come back home very soon. You want to get set for that or get prepared for the Birds, or this time of year, graduations. You got christenings. You got all kinds of stuff going on. They are the people to tap. Station Tap. Give them a call, 484-469-3222, or go to stationtapcatering.com. That's stationtapcatering.com.